everybody. Welcome to my trailer reaction. This is a live trailer reaction, but I've worked extremely hard on it, and I feel like this will be the first time I do a live trailer reaction, which feels like a fully edited trailer reaction. Just live before your very eyes. And the benefit to it being live is that you not only can add your own comments while I'm going through mine. I won't be able to look at the chat. I considered making this chat open to subscribers, but I realized I would not be able to do the trailer breakdown and keep an eye on the chat. So it's open to members, but anyone, of course, can watch, as you can see because you're watching. And then at the very end of the video, once I've done my breakdown, you can ask me questions about the trailer. But first off, since this is technically the first live stream of the week, I'm recovering from the flu. I can do pretty well during the day now, as you can see, but and my nights are still pretty brutal. But that's why there weren't any videos the last 2 days, because I was in Flu City. Population me, not fun. All right, so let me gift some memberships. 5 memberships, as I like to do every week, to try and match your wonderful generosity. So 5 of you, if you're tuning in right now, will be let instantly into the chat. By the way, I don't pick who the memberships go to. The other day, somebody accused me of that. They were like, you're just giving memberships to people you want to. Nope. YouTube picks who gets the memberships based on how much you interact with this channel. They want to give it to people who will appreciate it. Thanks, Dancing Dog 60, for donating some memberships yourself. All right, so, okay, I got my notes. I got the trailer here to look at. Oh, my God, I got so much going on, so please bear with me. Okay. Whew, it's a lot. All right, so, starting out, this is actually based on, Daredevil Born Again is based on a comic book. Daredevil Born Again, from 1986, written by Mr. Frank Miller, who I'm sure a number of you have heard of. Even people who don't read comics at this point know who Frank Miller is, because so many of his works have been adapted, mostly by Zack Snyder and Robert Rodriguez, into popular, at least well-known movies. Sin City, 300, Watchmen. But, he started out handling not his own projects, but doing really wonderful work for the big two, Marvel and DC. Started out at Marvel, really reinvigorated Daredevil as a character, and then, interestingly, jumped to DC with the same artist, Mazzucchelli, for Batman Year One, one of the greatest comic books of all time. I tried to read Born Again to get ready for this miniseries, but Born Again, I think, is a little bit more all over the place. I don't think it's as good as Batman Year One, to be honest with you, from my perspective. Some people love it. It's their jam. It's not my jam. It's, of course, an extremely famous comic. And another reason I didn't feel so bad not reading it is because this is really only based on that comic and name only. I worry about that. They did that with Secret Invasion to a degree. Kevin Feige, he's always been a little loose in his adaptations, but I feel like he's getting looser as time goes on. In the comic, Daredevil was first torn down by Kingpin and then took care of the problem and then was reborn, with a lot of problems along the way. But obviously that's not what's happening here. So we'll see how it works out. One other thing I want to point out to you, which I thought was very interesting, I think the trailer itself is performing okay, but I've been talking to a couple other YouTubers I know, and we feel that this show is underperforming as content to cover, which is very surprising. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it won't do well, because, like the Disney Pixar movies, like Disney Animation and Pixar movies, they are particularly, there's not a big audience, at least in like this space. I think it does well with some of the animation channels that focus solely on animation, or if you want to rag on the two and say like they're awful or something like that. But, those properties never really perform that well all the time. However, Marvel and Star Wars stuff is supposed to do well. So I think it's very interesting that this show, despite what seems like a lot of hype, trending very high on Twitter, although some of you have said social media isn't real life, and under Elon Musk's X, that seems to be more and more the case. But I do wonder if Disney Plus has, I think maybe pushed its viewers a little bit too far, burned them a couple of times too many. I think coming off, because look at the Skeleton Crew. A number of you are enjoying it, but very few people are watching it. In the past Star Wars content, The Acolyte didn't, but before that, Star Wars content was able to chart. So I just, I worry. Agatha struggled with charting. It got there a little bit, but I'm a little nervous about what's going to happen with Daredevil. I hope it's a successful show. I plan to cover it. It looks very good to me. But I was surprised to see a number of comments with people saying it didn't look good. It looked like a fan film. It was, lazy. And I will say that it had a real lack of cool poster frames. Now, I always talk to you about that, the importance of poster frames in a trailer. Now, you want to have a couple of at least 5 to 10 shots, which you could grab as stills that are very clearly from that project. There's not one clear picture of Daredevil in this entire trailer. I grabbed one for my trailer reaction, and I had to turn the brightness up on that like you wouldn't believe to see what is actually happening there. And I'm surprised that the marketing team doesn't realize that they need to have shots that are very clearly from Daredevil Born Again and not Daredevil seasons 1 through 3 on Netflix 7 years ago and more. And that also... the shots that, are exciting and show Daredevil and Kingpin that someone like myself can put in a poster frame. I couldn't even get a different image for this breakdown. I just had to throw the poster in there to make it look a little different because I thought that the imaging was so weak, from a marketing perspective. I thought, entertainment-wise, I was entertained, but marketing-wise, I thought it was not as good. All right, so let's go through the trailer. All right, here we go. We got it right here. All right. I found out that if I control this trailer off of OBS, I can do frame by frame if I need to. So problem solved. For my Superman breakdown, I didn't do it live, but I recorded it live to save time. Although then I lost a lot of time figuring out how to transfer whatever file OBS created. I'd never even seen that file before. I had to figure out how to and not have it be out of sync to an MP4 file. So that, ended up being a bit of a wash. But going forward, I'll be able to do those faster. Even, But anyway, I did it with YouTube, but YouTube, I just discovered this morning, changed it so that if you use the arrow keys, maybe it was different keys to go back and forth. I think one of you said it was like something else, but this works. All right. I see you guys commenting over there. I love it. I'm going to answer your questions at the end. And for those of you gifting membership like Wes the Best, I really, really appreciate it. You're letting people into this very discussion. All right, so here we go. We start out with I didn't turn the volume down. We start out with a hallway fight. It's not a Daredevil show if there isn't a hallway fight. Now, if you're not somebody who watched Daredevil seasons 1 through 3, he fought in a hallway quite a bit. The hallway fight is an iconic part of all stuff. It's something that is like, a lot of action movies and shows pride themselves on having a hallway fight. But Daredevil really leaned into that, and the show itself became very iconic for that. But look at that. I can't do anything with that shot. I'd be like, is that Daredevil? If he was fighting me, I'd be like, who is this? All right. Daredevil's like, you're not going to see anything in a minute between two black eyes. All right, so here we are at this diner. I love this. I love me some diner food, by the way. I'd be like, I hate you, my nemesis, but I am going to order. This is great. So they're sitting down together, and he's like, thanks for making time for me. Oh, and this is great. So there's an attempt on Wilson Fisk's life. Now, this seems like a female assassin. At first, I thought it might be Frank because he, too, had a hatchet. Frank Castle, a.k.a. the Punisher. But no, this is a lady or someone who really can work it. But you can see not only the hair, but when they twist, that looks like a female assassin to me. We'll see who it actually ends up being. But I like that dodge. That dodge on, like, look, he's big, but he can also move. That makes him really dangerous. So now this is great because this person dared to attack him in his sanctuary. Where, let me get my arrow. Where he's got the artwork and he's got the wine. How dare you? So I think that's perfect. It's very, very Kingpin. All right, so he's beating the crap out of this assassin. I think, we're going to talk about Kingpin in a minute. Some of you think he looks too small. I don't care. I think he looks great. I think he looks not too small, and I think he looks like a believable human, and he still has the Kingpin strength. I mean, like, wow, if you come at the king, you better not miss. So look at that, right into the light. And then, oh, good night. Oh. So look, he's learned to control himself. I think he looks great. So in some of the previous versions of the MCU Kingpin version of the character, there he is in Echo, and there he is in the Hawkeye show. They added him quite a bit. I thought it turned him into a cartoonish version of the character, and not in a good way. I like him just the way he is. I think he looks great here. He's still quite large. I think they're finding other ways to get that across, as you'll see in a moment. But I think the other ways look comical. I don't like the way he looks in those other. I really dislike the way I think Echo for Kingpin had its moments until, of course, the very end where it almost became character assassination. But I think he looks really good. All right, so he's like, and I love that he's like, it's not unpleasant for me to see you. It's interesting. Heroes and villains certainly have, let's say, a dance. They develop some sort of a twisted relationship because they spend so much time together physically and also thinking about each other. And I think there develops kind of like a mutual respect. Batman and the Joker, particularly under writer Scott Snyder, really explored that. So I think that's very interesting. Daredevil, of course, is very Batman coded. So I like that quite a bit. He's like, I like seeing you. Now this is a great shot to me. You might be like, what's so great about this? Well, you can see, I believe, that Kingpin's hands, he not only is he so big that he can't stick to his side of the table, all right, and he's encroaching in Daredevil's space, so Daredevil has to kind of just pull back. But it's not only indicative of his size, but it's a power play. He's taking up more space at the table. He's Kingpin spreading. So I think that's really clever. I think it's very, very effective. All right. And it looks like he just cleaned something off his fingers on Daredevil's side of the table. I'd be like, what? You get a napkin and you clean that up. All right. Marvel Television. Now that's a beautiful shot of the city. I, of course, am a New Yorker, and this makes me just love it even more. It's beautiful. It's got the smog. This is, of course, Hell's Kitchen, which is on the west side, right near Broadway, in fact, right past Times Square. That's the Hell's Kitchen neighborhood, full of a lot of theater folk, which, interestingly, is never really explored in the Daredevil series. But, all right. It's cleaned up a bit since it was first depicted in the 1980s. So Kingpin's like, you're doing well. And there they are. They do seem to be doing well. Everybody gets to go to a hair salon. They look very nice. You guys willed Karen and Foggy's return. They were going to recast them. I think they were they were going to kill them off. And the fans said, don't you dare kill them off. I will destroy your show. And they were like, uh-oh. And they were like, as long as I'm sorry, I forgot to get some water and I was already late. So as I told you, I'm still dealing with the flu. Yeah, so that's what they did. All right, so here they are. I love it. Kingpin's pulled back a little bit. That's interesting. He's on his side of the table. Daredevil's encroaching a little bit. He's getting a little bolder. So Kingpin, yeah, he's moving up in the world too. Now, this is not only a great shot of Kingpin. I've never seen any mayor in New York, make an appearance during New Year's Eve like this. But the Kingpin's a special kind of egomaniac. So that looks great. And not only is that awesome, but then you might also notice Rogers the Musical. You have an ad for Rogers the Musical there. Now, Rogers the Musical was not only featured in Hawkeye, and he saw it on Broadway, so that's the very show that Clint went to see. But Of course, it played for a little bit also in real life at Disney's California Adventure. So I think that's a cute little Easter egg. All right, then, so we move along, and, he's like, yeah, I'm the mayor. Hold on, let me talk about this. Now, Kingpin was the mayor in the comics. There he is, being all mayor. And it's been a big part of his storyline. However, when I was seeing him here, particularly since he's a little smaller, it reminded me very much of President Luthor. And, again, Marvel manages to get there first all the time. I'm not sure which came first in the comics, actually. I forgot to look it up. But, because Marvel is so ahead of DC, because DC has to keep restarting, Marvel beats them to a lot of the same things that they have both covered. And so you've got two bald villains in a suit who've held very high positions of power. And it just becomes a little redundant to, I think, the casuals. And even, I think, to some of us, if we're watching it, in this new format. All right, so look at this. Now, this is very interesting. At first, it's just somebody doing artwork of Kingpin being two-faced. But I bet you that's Muse. I bet you that's our villain, Muse. And in fact, there he is in the comics doing artwork of Kingpin on a brick wall. So I think that makes it even more likely that that is Muse. Now, who is Muse? Muse is a comic book villain from actually pretty recent Daredevil comics. And he uses 7 type art materials. He's like, this isn't just artwork on the wall, but I've used the blood of victims, So I think he's like a twisted vigilante to some degree. I'm sorry I didn't get any water before we started. But yeah. So there's that. And then here's a better look at Muse. So you can see his full costume, he's crying blood, right to his heart. And, they've done a very good job adapting this for this live action series. But yeah, I think that's Muse. And he's, coming after Kingpin. So he got his brush and his paint set there on his back. He's even got, that's interesting. He's even got some, oh, where's my arrow? He's even got some brushes sticking out the top there. I mean, he can really do some damage, Banksy style. So, I like that he's eating. He's eating the city. He's like, I don't care. And he says it can be difficult to come with, one's violent nature. And it's very clear that both Daredevil and Kingpin have real anger issues, violence and anger issues. So there's the glorious city. Now, I love this. So Daredevil says something that Kingpin, I forget, he says something that Kingpin doesn't like. So Kingpin expertly deflects, like any politician or villain would. And he brings up a different question, and he says, why did you stop being a vigilante? Now, in the Born Again comic, he knows very well why he stopped being a vigilante. He's the one who orchestrated it. But here, and they kind of used, I think, that storyline already in season 3, which is why they can't use it here. But he's genuinely doesn't understand it, and he's genuinely curious. And I like the way Vincent D'Onofrio delivers that line quite a bit. So Matt Murdock responds, and he says, a line was crossed. And, you can see he's missing a horn. He's cast his mask off into the crime scene, or the ambulance is departing. He's like, I've had too much. And, Kingpin says it's hard to come to terms with a violent nature. Now, at first I thought this was Daredevil, but, I think that might actually be Muse collecting art supplies, because, in fact, sometimes in the comics he would use dead bodies for his art. I don't know how much they appreciated that, but yeah, that's why he's a villain. So I'm curious to see what's going on here. I think that's Muse. When you consider the hat, Muse wears a hat like that, I think it's Muse. All right. So, I think I'm not sure if that's Frank Castle or not. Right here? I'm not sure. But this is a crazy subway, right here, in case I did that too fast. Is this Frank Castle? We'll see. But this is a crazy subway fight. So, a very CGI subway fight as well, by the way. So, they're having a big fight, and then look, this is, so it's very CGI. So this guy gets pushed, and the train gets him. The CGI train, there he goes. And this guy is like, oh, thank goodness, it's just CGI. He's okay. But I don't know if this is going to turn out well. So there's like a real fight here. He home aloned him. Did he hang him? Oh, no, he didn't. Wouldn't it be hilarious if he hung him on a hook like at the end of Home Alone? No, but he puts him up, throws him up against the wall. Matt Murdock, he's taking a beating. You know, like, look, see, this is not great. And, then you have this drop of blood. Oh, we've awakened him. Matt Murdock, yeah, he has got real rage issues. When they kick in, you're not going to be happy. So look, they're escorting, and this is going to be fun. Let's put him in the General Pop. Who puts Bullseye in Gen Pop? All right, so here he comes in. Maybe they're just escorting him through Gen Pop. But this, of course, is Bullseye. And the great thing about it is they brought back Wilson Bethel from the Netflix show. He only showed up in season 3. In fact, he was there for so little, there he is, really great actor, that he never got to look like Bullseye. He, in fact, the only thing that he really did was that he impersonated Matt Murdock. And that's how Kingpin brought Matt Murdock, tried to bring him down. But he never got the trademark suit. I think he might have carved that into his head at some point. I don't think so. It's not there. That was an end credit scene. Or no, he got some kind of, in the end credit scene, I think he got some kind of augmentation. But, Bullseye is a particularly sadistic villain. And so considering this show is very intent on showing us its willingness to go there, hopefully that they will include that part of Bullseye. But yes, I think everybody wants to see him in his suit. A couple of on-set photos leaked, and he looked a little paunchy. You're like, didn't you work out in prison? Like, that's one of the main things that happens to you in prison. You work out. But apparently, no. So we'll see how the suit looks on camera. But yeah, I think that Wilson Bethel, we all felt we all felt very bad that he never got to really fully become the character. So I'm so glad they brought him back. Now I want to take a moment to talk about that. Just like Batman, who of course, what's Bullseye's power set? Bullseye has perfect aim. He can hit any target. He also was played by Colin Farrell in the infamous Bullseye movie, where he did have his logo tattoo carved on his head instead of a mask. And he was played by Colin Farrell opposite Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner as Elektra. But he can hit anything. He just has perfect target ability. So he can throw something across several city blocks and hit you. As I saw someone say, near supernatural, and that's true. Now I want to talk about Daredevil's Rogues Gallery. Like Spider-Man, who also sometimes crosses paths with Daredevil because they police the same city, I think they feel protect the same city, Daredevil has a really strong Rogues Gallery. So strong that it's been, unfortunately, I think, a little overextended by the MCU. Or actually Netflix, under Jeff Loeb. A lot of his villains were used for Iron Fist, for instance. I mean, I guess they're all in the same space, but Typhoid Mary is a really interesting character. And to Alice Eve's credit, she did a nice job with the character, but she never had the crazy makeup and visuals that are so associated with the character. Elektra is a great character, and Elodie Yung did a nice job with the character. Although, I have to say, Elektra is a character I'd like to see recast. I just feel Elodie Yung seemed more, I don't know, she just didn't seem like enough oomph to me. So I don't know how you guys feel, sound off in the comments, but I'd like to see Elodie Yung recast. And I'd like to see Typhoid Mary brought in. I really like Typhoid Mary. Matt Murdock has a lot of love interests, and he gets along with women. He has a lot of great female supporting characters, but he has a lot of great female villains, and I don't think they're played up enough. For instance, you can see, Lady Bullseye in there. Where's my arrow? Lady Bullseye is right there. She takes over a little bit from Bullseye for a while. She's a cool character. Echo, who of course just got her own series. She's right over here. She started out as a villain. He has cool characters. And I thought that, I think the Echo series, it didn't deliver enough of a comic book version of the character, in my opinion. If you don't like comic books, don't adapt a comic book character, because it just doesn't work out for anybody. Okay. I can see some of you like Elektra the way it is. That's great. I'm glad you like her, but some of you agree with me, so we'll see. All right, so this is great. I couldn't figure out who these guys are. I didn't see any history of them in the comics. Of course, I think it reminds all of us a little bit of Reservoir Dogs and so many great Hollywood movies with a bank heist. Inside Man, The Dark Knight, they're a lot of fun. So here these guys come. They're very comic booky, though, with the different color face masks. You're like, all right, here comes the show. The red guy seems to be the leader, and he takes on our red guy. I love that. He's blind, you moron. Okay. All right. So here he is. Look at him. He's all moody. He's like, let me look for a date. All right. So I would think that this kind of a scenario would be just murder on his ultimate. You know, he has such heightened senses. You would think the club would be a torture chamber for him. Maybe he has earplugs in. All right. So here he is in court. And I like this, you know, I like the way the court looks here because it looks actually also, I have to say, and this is brilliant, very much like a church. I really like that. You know, the pews, the pulpit up top there, and the separation, you know, a little bit of like, you know, especially in British churches. When I was in England over the holidays, I was like, why do you have a special place for people to sit? Aren't all of God's worshipers the same? I mean, I guess there's the front row, but you creating this little space in the middle here that kind of obstructs the view of the people in the back seems kind of mean to me. But, you know, you can kind of see that recreated here a little bit with, you know, the defense and the prosecution desks. But I think it's great. I love that, you know, Matt Murdock, of course, is an extremely religious character. And I like the idea that, you know, to him, the courtroom is a holy place. I just think that's really beautiful. All right. And look at that. That's very, to me, that's not only a cool shot, but it has like religious connotations as well. You know, considering where we are right now, I wouldn't shy away from the religious aspects of the show. I hope that they didn't do that. It's not only, it's such a crucial part of the character. And I think, you know, when you have faith like Matt Murdock does, it's really quite moving and just affects you so wholly across the board. So who's this? Oh, who's that? What's going on behind her? Oh, that's just artwork. All right, so new love interest. Now, this is Margarita Levieva, who's the actress, and she is playing Heather Glenn, a new character to Daredevil on television, but not in the comics. So let's talk about Heather Glenn. Again, a lot of Heather's storyline has already been used by a different Marvel property, which is creating an issue. So here's Heather Glenn in the comics. She's a New York socialite. Her father runs Glenn Industries. Oh my God, how many industries are there in comic books? You get an industry, you get an industry. Everybody has an industry. But yes, Maxwell Glenn runs Glenn, like Maxwell Lord, runs Glenn Industries for DC. And this is his daughter, Heather. And she, of course, falls madly in love with Mr. Matt Murdock. And Matt Murdock only knows one kind of relationship, and that's tumultuous. So the problem is that eventually her father started to act very bizarre and commit crimes, only for it to be revealed that he was under the control of the Purple Man. But wait a minute, the Purple Man, although to be fair, the Purple Man was used quite effectively in the Jessica Jones actual comics by Brian Michael Bendis. Where the heck did he go? Remember when he used to be such a big figure in the comic book space? We haven't heard from him in a long time. But the Purple Man destroyed the lives of the Glens. He killed Maxwell Glenn, and he didn't kill Heather Glenn, although he did control her. And then I'm not going to tell you anything else that happens to Heather Glenn for fear of spoilers, but it ain't good, I'll tell you that. So, but yes, the Purple Man, I don't know, I would not want to see David Tennant recast. I'd be like, I don't care, like, let's write him a check, although he's, you know, David Tennant likes to work. He just did this, like, crazy UK show. So I think he would be okay. All right, so moving on. So one second. This is a nice shot. We don't see who's pulling that gun, but that's a really nice shot. But oh, sexy time in the shower. That Matt. Everybody likes to make fun of how Matt gets around, but it's funny because it's true. It's funny because it's true. All right. Although she looks like she hasn't gotten very wet at all, which reminds me of a joke. I used to know this stand-up comedian, and he made a great joke. And he said, it's impossible for two people to take a shower because there's not enough water coming out of the shower for that to happen. So one person gets to take a shower, usually the woman, and the guy just ends up being the shower assistant, which I always thought was very funny, you know, handing you all the stuff like the loofah and the soap, and I just thought that was very funny. Although here, it looks like they're more interested in getting dirty than clean. Okay, all right. So I'm curious as to who this is. That looks like it might be Bullseye, actually. I can tell by how out of shape he is. Let's hope that's not how he looks in The Purple Man did die, but I think he can sometimes come back, and I think there was an idea that the Purple Man existed and lived on in people's psyches, and also the Purple Man had a lot of kids, turned out. He got around, and so that was a great side story. Let me fill you in on that. The Purple Man, which was really interesting, is that the Purple Man, because he would take over people's bodies and force them to be with him, he fathered a lot of kids, and they were all born purple, and they all had the ability to, they all had his power set, and they became like a little gang. It was a very interesting storyline. Of course, they didn't know what they were doing, but I think you could certainly build off of that in a very effective way. So then I guess you would cast somebody else, but I thought that was a great idea. All right, so yes, here comes Paunchy Man. All right, and now there's Muse. Oh, hold on. That's a really creepy mask, boy. I like it a lot. That looks great. I love it. That looks really good. I'd be like, I think I have to arrest you, but I love your work. All right. So there's Vanessa. You guys brought her back too. Again, you were like, if it's not the Daredevil I remember, I just don't want it. So here she is. She's wearing red too. I love it. And look, I wonder if that's the painting. Yes, that's the painting I brought up before. That's the painting from the end of Daredevil season 3. I forget whose blood it is. It's when Daredevil and Kingpin had their big fight. And it was this white canvas, which was supposed to emphasize a fresh start for Kingpin. And then he couldn't help himself, got into a fight with Daredevil, and he messed it up. But he's embraced it and hung it up in the dining room. No, it looks like they're downstairs. Yes, where that attack took place. That's interesting. All right, so they're like, we love our lives. We don't care what you think. All right, so here's Frank Castle, and he's like, Frank, put down the hatchet. I love John Bernthal. He hasn't worked in so long, I forgot his name. Yeah, John Bernthal. He really does not work very much. All right, so he's like, oh yeah, it's Matt Murdock. Let me talk about anger and violence issues. And so he puts down the hatchet, but in pure Punisher style, he puts it, I'm sure we all know, he buries it right next to his head in the locker behind. I mean, I'm not worried for Matt Murdock. I know what you're like, Frank. All right, so this sequence looks great to me. This is the bank heist. So it looks like the authorities have been alerted. This looks very Batman-y to me, in a good way, like very Christopher Nolan-y. So New York Mutual and the Popo are here, and look at some of these shots. So they blow the door. That's very... I don't like that. That's very TV explosion. They're like, we can't hurt this location. I want my deposit back. So this shot is my favorite shot in the whole trailer. Right there. I just love it. I love a good chase scene. I love the momentum of it. I love that the motorcycle is coming towards us and we're going toward it, and what that does to the camera POV, like what it does to the plane of vision. I like it a lot. Really, my favorite shot in the trailer. Because they didn't give me any Daredevil shots. So things have changed. And there's Karen in the back of the room. She looks great. Deborah Wall, I loved her in True Blood. She doesn't get any work either. She now does like Dungeons and Dragons, I think, like Dungeons and Dragons online play. So who's this? This is Mr. Michael Gandolfini. That's right, the son of James Gandolfini. So, he gets hired a lot to carry on the legacy of his father. And what a legacy. I only watched The Sopranos during the pandemic, but I was like, what a show. I can see why everybody loves it. And I know the ending was controversial. I'm not going to give it away in case you haven't watched The Sopranos. Go watch it. It's worth your time. You'll watch it pretty fast. And I thought the ending was brilliant. I can see how maybe it was disappointing at the time, but since I'm so removed from when it aired, I loved the ending, and I thought it was just really, really strong. So he, of course, played young Tony Soprano in the recent Saints of Newark or whatever, which was a horrible movie, which was a prequel. Horrible, horrible. And so here he is again. So I just saw a good guess for young Kingpin. Maybe, the character in the character has been revealed to be Daniel Blade, but that could totally be a misdirect. I think it could be young Kingpin. I think that would make sense. I'll be curious to see who this character is. You better believe he's going to be an important character. I'm not quite sold yet on Michael Gandolfini's acting ability, but he's still very young. He's still learning the craft. I'm excited for him, and I think he will give some. Apparently nobody noticed him for the most part, but I think he gives some further credibility to the show. All right, he looks pretty meek right there. Maybe he's somebody who's being targeted. We'll see. Okay, so look at that. That's the kind of violence, bodies on hooks, that we're used to seeing in Daredevil comics, particularly if they're written by Mr. Frank Miller. All right, so there's Daredevil. It's just, look at that guy's eyes, the way I froze it. He's doing like this guy, like, what? Did I just get hit in the back of the head? That's great. But this almost in some ways, I guess, be a hallway fight. So look at that. They cheated in the edit. They cheated in the edit. Oh, don't cheat in the edit. He didn't whip his cane that fast. So he takes him down. Now, this is a really moving addition to the show. So let's talk about White Tiger. Now, this is the male version of the character. In the most recent comics, the White Tiger was a female. And I believe is the descendant of this character. We'll see. Forgot to look that up. But White Tiger, this is the original version. Hector Ayala, who is a Latino character. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to point out, one of you said that you thought that Muse's mask and this mask are a little similar. And I think that's true. Now, obviously, they're both really iconic characters. Here is White Tiger in the comics. So what are you supposed to do? They looked alike in the comics. Now, of course, they didn't coexist in the comics. They're coexisting here. Maybe that'll be used in a way and that maybe they get confused for each other at first. Let's see what they decide to do. But I maybe would have changed, reversed I guess it's supposed to be blood on white, so I can't change that. I'm not sure what I would have done. It's a little bit of a conundrum, so hopefully they work with it in the show and use it so that it's not just something that's awkward. All right, so Hector Ayala is from Puerto Rico, and he gets his powers. That amulet around his neck is supposed to be a jade amulet. You can see also on the comic book character. And that is what gives him his power set. It almost acts like a super soldier serum to just, really, boost his abilities. And then he's a martial artist, is usually the case with Daredevil characters, heroes and villains. But what's really important is that he was the first Latino superhero for Marvel Comics, introduced back in 1975. And if that's not special enough, he was co-created by Mr. George Perez, himself Puerto Rican. Now, George Perez tragically passed away just a few years ago. And George Perez is one of the most iconic figures in comics as an artist. I think he is perhaps most famous for Wonder Woman, and of course his work on Titans, making them their own team and extremely popular. So this is a very important character to introduce, and so hopefully they get it right. But this is a good start. But this is important. So this will mean a lot to a lot of comic book fans, but I think particularly Latino comic book fans. That looks great. Let's see what's happening. So this is maybe this might be a police officer that we work with. That's interesting. So this is a different guy. I thought it was Matt Murdock at first, right into those bottles. And look at his face. Oh my God. Oh, yikes. Okay, now it's getting really bad. Look at this. So this is the Red Leader. This guy's got a real problem. Look at this. Oh my God, what's your problem, buddy? Why doesn't that guy move? I guess he's just out of it for a second because his face was all smashed up, but that leg's going. Oh, look at it. Oh my God. That guy he's so out of it, he doesn't hardly even react. That's too much, my friend. It's too much. All right. So there's some of Muse's artwork. For what he lacks in talent, he makes up for it with passion. And he's a good marketer. I'd be like, I don't actually think you're that talented, but I think you've managed to make a real name for yourself. And that's half the game when it comes to being an artist. All right, so here we are. There's Daredevil getting back in the swing of things, literally. But I like this shot quite a bit. You know, Daredevil's always on a rooftop, just like Batman. This is a beautiful shot of Kingpin. That's really gorgeous. Oh, look at that. Look at him. Look at the slight look of disgust on his face. He's like, why aren't I a meme machine like Homelander? And you're like, you just don't have the pizzazz. All right, so there's Muse making art. Oh, what a sicko. And then here's, Matt Murdock again. And oh, look, he says, this is an important line. He says, I was raised to believe in retribution. So I guess Matt Murdock is saying, yes, we both have a problem when it comes to violence and controlling it, but why is each of us violent? Daredevil feels he's being violent in some act of justice, where, of course, Kingpin is being violent to only further his own goals. What's with the closet? You know, he's got a closet full of Daredevil masks. We recognize that yellow one. You know, of course, Daredevil started out with a yellow costume. That was his original look. And he's, of course, worn a black costume. He looks to have 2 different shades of red there. I don't recall him ever wearing a silver outfit. A disciplined show would have made him wear all these costumes during the season if you're going to show them. You know, you don't show, or I guess you maybe would save it for season 2, but, okay, so yeah, he's like, I have so many of these, I might as well use them. And I do love the Billy, it's a Billy Club, right? Yeah, I love the Billy Club use. That's classic Daredevil. He used it very well in Echo. It's great. Look at that little hand. Look at those jazz hands there. Jazz hands. Okay, so then he's like, oh, look at that. He's like, I'm an artist too, Muse. Let me show you what I can do. So he's really, you can see now they're just showing his, oh, look, that looks like Muse's workshop and there's a body on the table. Oh, he's going full Brad Pitt at the end of 7. That is pretty bad. He's like, you're a disgusting monster. You must be stopped. Although, is this Daredevil breaking that guy's arm? He wouldn't let go of the gun. We both reach for the gun, reach for the gun, reach for the gun. For those of you who are Chicago fans, you just heard me butcher it. But yeah, so he's like, the guy let go of it. He's like, I let go of it. Why'd you still break my arm? And he's like, because you didn't let go immediately. So he's beating the crap out. And look, I just love this shot. He's just so angry. That looks like Muse's lair. He's just so angry. He's so angry. My God. And then he's even screaming as Matt Murdock. He's just a really angry guy. And Daredevil Born Again. And birth is violent. So, all right, so I thought it was a very good trailer. I was surprised to see a lot of the negativity that was online. I don't know if it's just people hating on Disney like they like to do these days, but I was surprised by it. I was surprised. All right, so it's the Q&A section of the stream. Thank you so much. Let me denounce that with the visuals here. I loaded so many graphics. Give me a moment. There we go. Oh, I didn't put it in the right place. It's always something. All right, Q&A. All right, thank you so much for joining me. Let me ask you in a poll. I know you love a good poll. What did you think of the trailer? Loved it. Pretty good. Could have been better. And then we'll do weak sauce. By the way, anyone who's watching can vote in a poll. You don't have to be a member to vote in a poll. Sion says, will we get any MCU characters having cameos in this? I think that you might get a couple of cameos beyond this. I think it would be a shame not to have any surprises in store. But I think these are probably going to be the main villains that heroes that you're dealing with. Sophia says, hey Grace, do you think this show sets up a Devil's Reign Spider-Man movie with a team up? Also, rest in peace to White Tiger actor Camar de los Reyes. Thank you, Sophia. That's very kind of you to say that for that person. R.I.P. indeed. I don't know if they'll ever bring Spider-Man and Daredevil. I think that I would see future cameos for Daredevil in Spider-Man movies, but I just feel that Spider-Man has so much of his own story left to tell, and I think, Daredevil is a Disney Plus TV character, and I just, they got to stop it's been clear that people feel those movies are lesser if they include a significant number of Disney Plus characters. Rob Wall says, this looks like a return to the earlier MCU style like Captain America Winter Soldier. Well, this would win back some of the core MCU fan base. Let's see what the reviews look like. Let's see if it really is chock full of surprises. And I think what's crucial for the success of this show is that they don't do the same tricks. I really don't want to see the big twist in episode 5. I don't want to see a lot of things left for a later season. You know, I think I think we've gotten tired and we see the strings. And so that's a problem. Rashad, it is not 18 episodes anymore. It's just, I think it's 10. They've decided to go back to just a regular season. Yeah, I see a lot of you asking about She-Hulk. Daredevil gets around, you know? He doesn't really have a girlfriend. I mean, sometimes he'll call you. Sometimes a woman can convince him to say, let's give each other a label. But he doesn't stick around with it. Matt Murdock, you know, he's not at all faithful. He just gets around. You got to just love him for who he is. Let's see here. I saw somebody, I forgot. Oh, yes, Ben 10. I would love to see Moon Knight on this show as well. That would be an excellent cameo. I would love Moon Knight to show up. Riley says they hate Disney, but they have $3 billion movies this year. 7 in 2019. Always interesting to me. Yes, I think the movies are still doing very well for the most part. I mean, the Marvels was an epic flop. But the Disney Plus shows have struggled. Agatha struggled to be in the charts, and it looks like Skeleton Crew might not ever get there. Rashad would rather a Spider-Man cameo rather than She-Hulk and Echo. I think Tom Holland's a little bit too busy. I think Echo just did not go over well. Although, I don't know. I thought she had some good fight sequences. You know, I wouldn't want to just totally get rid of the character, but I would try to pull her more towards the comic book version. I'd be like, where's the handprint, man? You know, like they did that a little, but, you know, that's what the character is. I would just pretend that miniseries never happened because they just totally messed up the character. And I like She-Hulk. Everybody hates She-Hulk. I liked Tatiana Maslany in that role. I just think the writer was the issue. Jesus says, hey, Grace, I just wanted to ask if you were feeling better. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I do feel a lot better. It was a rough 2 days in particular, particularly at night, but I feel better. Big League Chew was expecting to see the Netflix logo at the end of the trailer, so that's pretty good. Let's see here. You know, for those of you who are saying you really want to see She-Hulk, it would be nice, you know, maybe to redeem the character. I would love that. Like, let's bring her back to show that what she can do with the right care. Let me close the poll. Let's see what the poll is. Polly poll poll. All right, so 45% of you loved it, and 40% of you thought it was pretty good. So that's a little disappointing that less than half of you loved it. You know, that's very low for a Marvel. Like, just think about what used to be a Marvel fan. Back in the day when Marvel released anything, 80% of people were like, oh my God, it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. For only 45% of you to feel that way is surprising. 40% though, so 85% positive though. So it's got that going for it. 9% felt it could have been better, and only 4% felt it was weak sauce. So, you know, they're at least in the right direction. Thank you, Danny. And then Dancing Dog 60 says, I like this. I just want toxicity to settle down. Yeah, I think toxicity is ruining so many things in life. So I don't know if 2025 is going to make it better or worse. Adam Sphere says, there's a lot of characters for 10 episodes. That's a lot of characters for 10 episodes. I'm excited, but that makes me nervous. Someone said it might just be 9. I hope it has a lot of characters. I want a lot of stuff to talk about. This show will do well if there's a lot to discuss. And yes, Ben 10, I hope the episodes are also longer. I would be shocked if the episodes were only about 35 minutes. That's another thing about not making the same mistakes. We have made it very clear that we don't like the 35-minute episode. I thought for Agatha, I never felt it. Agatha to me felt very full. But, you know, we certainly felt it with like The Acolyte and other shows. It's ridiculous. And I think we've made it very clear we want 45 to 50-minute episodes. So, and Daredevil used to be that length on Netflix. So I can't imagine that they would make that mistake. But yet this is Disney we're talking about, and they make a lot of mistakes. You know, they're very slow to pivot, which is so odd. C Black, I firmly believe that the Fantastic Four trailer will be in front of the Super Bowl. That's when they released the first Daredevil, Deadpool versus Wolverine trailer. I think they are following that release strategy to a T to see if they can repeat that success. So I think, and also, by the way, that's right before Captain America comes out on the 14th. The Super Bowl is on February 9th, and then Captain America comes out the Friday after on the 14th. So releasing a trailer at the Super Bowl would allow it to play in front of Captain America. I think 3 movies in a year is a little bit much. I think Marvel's going to have a hard time advertising 3 movies without one of them slipping through the cracks. And the question is, which one is it going to be? Because, I think they've had very little for Thunderbolts. And they can't use their ace card, which is Sentry. They're like, do you want to see these Disney Plus characters and characters from unpopular movies fight together? And, I don't think I don't know. We'll see. But, Sentry is the big play. So I would never make a movie where Sentry they waited to reveal him to the end. Although, of course, not confirmed. Marduk, I never watched Skeleton Crew. I just didn't have any interest in it, and most people did not. JD says if it's weekly, I'm more likely to watch Grace's reviews than the actual show. Well, first of all, I appreciate that. And second of all, you're not the first person that I've seen say that. I think a lot of people are so upset with the quality and the politics over at Disney and some other places that you don't want to totally stay out. You want to still be in the loop. So you're going to YouTube and you're watching the content by doing that. And I've seen a number of people say that, which I think is very interesting. Atmosphere did that for Skeleton Crew. That's really interesting. Scores says the issue is that there's not enough good content on Disney Plus to play for the subscription. That's very interesting. That's another problem. Art Lover, thank you. I'm glad you appreciated my comment about Disney being very slow to pivot. All right, so that's the Q&A. Thank you so much for joining me for this trailer breakdown. I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun going over this with you. And thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye. Bye-bye.